Your current balance is $4.77. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
What's up with you, brother?
Alright, hello? Yep, I'm good.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Let me ask you this: how many whole stints have you did, and what was the longest one?
I went to the hole probably like 8 times, and the longest one I was in for is when I was laid down. I was in the hole originally at one facility, and then they rolled me out into another facility and sent me straight to the hole. So I was on acid, and so I was probably there like 4 months in the hole. That was the longest time I ever did in the hole, but most of the time it was like 2 months, at least 2 months.
Okay. What, so your longest hold bid. What effects did it have on you while you were in there, and then when you came out? Did you have any social anxieties, anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely had that, but it was crazy because you don't really realize it. Like so my first time ever going to the hole, at first, you would talk to somebody through the door, but eventually that kind of wears itself out, and then you start to just recluse a little bit, stay to yourself. You try to read some books. You start thinking about things that's going on, and then a part of you feel kind of paranoid, because you locked in the door and airplanes flying over the building, and you think to yourself like, wow, if something happened, I can't really get out of here unless they let me out of here. So you kind of feel vulnerable in a sense. You got to get your food brought to you, so you're trusting that the people who probably mad at you for coming to the hole in the first place ain't putting nothing in your food. You got to rely on somebody to give you cleaning supplies. And most of the time when I was in the hole, I tried to sleep, and when that didn't work,
Hmm.
I just was thinking about every plan, things that I experienced back and forth in my mind a lot. And when I got out the hole, I noticed like those times when I would get out the hole, it seemed like more and more I had anxiety, say like dealing with just officers, dealing with other prisoners. It make you don't want to talk to nobody. That's the kind of anxiety I had. I kind of wanted to stay to myself. Didn't really want to ask somebody for something. Even if I needed something, I would not ask because of the anxiety I felt inside made me want to avoid a conversation. You know what I'm saying? The fear of like not getting what I'm asking for anyway. I started because when you in the hole, you ask for stuff, they don't give it to you, and so you start to build up for me at the time, and I was young in the hole, and I used to think like, why even bother? Why even bother? Even if I needed something, why even bother? Because they're not gonna give it to me anyway. So it just like my mind started kind of working like that for me, where I became like a little pessimistic about receiving what I need from the people that work here, and if I could get it from a prisoner, like it made me feel like it's a trick to it, or a guy trying to shoot a move or something like that.
Okay. Have you ever seen a prisoner come in the hole normal, and then his time in the hole he just became erratic, or maybe after he was just totally changed?
I've seen the cases where it seemed like guys who went to the hole, it include myself, especially when I was a lot younger. It make you going back and forth to the hole kind of make you aggressive because you gotta yell to get what you need done. You gotta argue with them to get things done. So I done seen guys go to the hole who appeared to be calm and collective, but once they go back and forth to the hole a couple times, they not the same. They're a little bit more aggressive. They're a little bit more on edge. And shit, if I really, it seemed like they stopped caring more. I'll say it like that because it just seemed like it makes you not care whether I'm going to the hole or not, or the circumstances that I'm putting myself in. I've seen guys go back and forth to the hole, come out super aggressive, like they stopped caring about the little stuff they did care about before they went.
Wow. What would you say was probably the worst thing you ever seen in prison, and it maybe kind of made you a little bit paranoid, or it was like a real reality check of where you was at?
Uh, the time, well, when I was at Cotton, I had just came to prison, and it was a guy who used to sell you food off his tray for a cigarette or a little coffee. And he had diabetes, I think, and he needed some medical attention, and they didn't give it to him. And so we was even getting involved trying to call somebody and say, hey, hey, this guy needs some medical attention, because I was noticing he was swelling up. And they, instead of giving him medical attention, took him to the hole. And then the next day we found out that he died. That was like a reality check for me, because I had dinners and interactions with this guy on a daily basis, but I done seen people stabbed, and it was so gruesome that it was like, man, I don't even know if this guy gonna make it. And then you was the type of weapons that I seen guys stabbed with. He'd be like, man, I've never seen a knife that big. That looked like a real Rambo knife. Or for me, when I came to prison, I was taught how to make a weapon, but after seeing some of the knives I've seen on the yard, I was like, man, I don't even know. I might as well throw that in the trash. What they got going on, like, so just seeing weapons that other guys had, and also to be truthful, man, during this period of COVID, on my floor, 4 people died, and it was older gentlemen that I had contact with, and that. Even though it's years later and I'm still in prison and I've seen a lot of stuff, that right there still kind of touched me the same way those things did. Like, well, I got to get out of here, because I used to be at the microwave with this older gentleman, and he used to, school me and give me good advice, and just, we used to have polite conversations, and he's not there. And the other gentleman downstairs, I used to cut his hair. And he, we went through that COVID period. He's no longer here. And these was guys who came by my door, older gentlemen who had respect for me and I had respect for them, and we made sure each other was all right, and they not here. So that was equivalent, or if not more of a wake up call to be like, man, we could be in here and just not make it out of prison, like.
Mm-hmm.
So
have you
the violence.
Have you ever been stabbed or assaulted in prison?
I was stabbed in the face. And that day, the time that I had went to the hole, I was stabbed in the face, and the way I was taught in prison at that time, you had a couple brothers from different religious organizations. They washed my wound out my eye, and washed my wound up and sewed it up with dental floss. And,
wait, you got stabbed in the eye?
I got stabbed above my eye,
above
but
the
it
eye.
wasn't like my eyeball.
Oh, okay.
It was like up into my eyebrow a little bit. I mean, in my around my eye area. It's above my eye.
Did he intentionally aim for your eye? Oh, okay.
It was close to it. It was close to it, but it wasn't.
No, I mean, like, did he purposely try to hit you in the eye, or just?
Oh, yes, because we was having a knife fight, and that's where the situation where me and the other guy went to the hole where I was trying to resolve that conflict, and one of them had a knife, and I was stabbed in the face, but that guy who stabbed me in the face, he ended up in the hospital fighting for his life, and they was telling us he was dead, and he was going to be charged. We was going to be charged with a murder, and that was around the time that I was in the hole, and I had my mother's passing bottled up in me, because I didn't even deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And all that came to a halt through that situation.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Glad you're all right. Do things like that go on often to this day, or is it few and far between now?
Yep, it's even worse nowadays, because it's when I first came to prison, it was more religious groups, and it was organized. Now it's a lot of gangs, and they do everything together. So if you fight one of them, you got to fight them all. So it could be the smallest violation. Because, like in prison, you got the written rules, then you got the unwritten rules.
Yeah.
And so violence in prison, to be truthful, it seemed like after COVID, violence in prison just exploded, because there's always things going on in prison. And then you hear about things going on in other prisons, too. So yeah, the violence is still in prison. The fights, the stabbings, that's still, actually more going on more so than it was a little bit, earlier. But yeah, it still go on every day. Here.
What would you say the biggest gang is in prison at this moment?
really hard to say because, like, from my understanding of them, 'cause I'm not a part of a gang, but I would say it's gangs within gangs. So it's hard to really measure what's the biggest one because it's groups inside the groups. You feel what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's kind of different because you have so it's different. It's like it's not a solid group. It's a splinter group. It's three groups in one, and they're not really as unified as you would think they could be.
Why do you think people gravitate towards gangs like maybe the Bloods, or I think another big one, probably the Vice Lords? Why do you think they will gravitate towards those instead of, like, maybe a religion?
Well, drugs. A lot like when I first came to prison, I didn't have a high school diploma, but I knew how to read and comprehend, and education was the order of the day. And nowadays, people's attention span is low, and they don't want to read a book. They want you to give them, verbally tell them what's in the book, and then they'll take what you teach them and stand on that more so than check for themselves. So I think it's a sense of family, but it's also a sense of, like, it don't take much to be a part of something. You feel what I'm saying? It's like it's not no process. It's not no discipline required. It's not real leadership, if you ask me. My personal opinion is like it's a lack of leadership. And then from what I see over the years is eventually they do turn to the gang. Turn to the religion. Those who really tired of making the same mistakes or running into the brick wall. But I think it's just a lack of education, and it's almost as if the drugs it kills your desire to want to be better or want more discipline or to work hard to earn something. So it's easier to be a part of a gang. That's how I view it.
What do you say to the people that say the Nation of Islam is radical? What do you say to that? Because I know you probably heard that before.
Yeah, but I think radical in the sense of self-improvement, yeah. Because, when I got out of the hole and I made a promise to myself and God that I was going to change my life in prison, I wasn't going to do no more crime, it was the study guys by Minister Farrakhan that gave me the knowledge I needed to go inside myself and correct things that I wasn't able to, say, get somebody who was older than me to guide me. I was able to do it myself. I was able to self-improve. And I think that, to me, if it's radical in the sense of self-improvement and change. But, when you got a brotherhood in prison, and it's like a beehive, man. You poke at some bees, you'll get stung. But if you let them bees do what it is that they're trying to do for themselves, and let nature take its course, never have an issue. But I'm going to say this, too. They starting to realize, too, like with the Moorish Science Temple of America, Nation of Islam brothers, the same brothers that they used to attack once upon a time when it wasn't no gangs in prison, and they was riding brothers out and was scared of the influence they had. Now they coming to them saying, hey, can y'all talk to these young guys, because y'all the only guys they really listen to. So it's kind of like a gift and a curse, but I guess first they seen brothers studying as a curse, but now they see it as a gift because some people got a positive influence and are good examples in prison of how to do something right and be truthful. They got to come to the Moors in the nation now and say,
You have 1 minute remaining.